going for vacation or something.
Oh, no,
County City Council for October 12th, 2021 is now in session. Roll call, please.
Council President, Mr. Arcaro,
Present.
Mr. Emery,
Here.
Mr. Goff,
Here.
Mr. Kozowski,
Here.
Mrs. Lightford,
Here,
Mr. Moiseo,
Here.
City Manager, Mr. Hockaday,
Here.
Finance Director, Mr. Williams.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a special presentation this evening and then a number of awards presentations, and we will begin with our special presentation. Judge Nick Irochi is in chambers with us tonight to swear in our new council member, Nick Perkowski. Nick, if you'd come forward, please.
Repeat after me, raise your right hand. I, Nicholas Perkowski,
I, Nicholas Perkowski,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Conneaut, Ohio,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Conneaut,
and will,
and will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
perform all of the duties
perform all of the duties
incumbent upon me
incumbent upon me
as council at large
as council at large
for the city of Conneaut.
for the city of Conneaut.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. You're welcome back.
It's not official until you sign this, Mr.
Oh.
Perkowski.
All right. Thank you, Judge.
If I may, Mr. President. Mr.
Absolutely.
Perkowski will be an excellent addition to city council. Nick and I work very closely together in other ways outside of this building, and I find him to be extremely reasonable, open-minded, hardworking, dedicated, and committed to the city of Conneaut. So congratulations. Mr.
Thank you, Judge.
Perkowski.
Thank you.
congratulations, Nick.
Thank you. Our first awards presentation this evening is for a community service award for Lori McLaughlin, presented by Dean Stalker from Kent State University. Floor is yours.
Over here. So, I have three things that I'd like to say tonight. The first one is thank you. Every time I come to the city of Conneaut, I like to say thank you. Many of you know that several years ago, we built a new health and science building on our campus, and I was involved at that time. But there were several members, individual folks in Conneaut and businesses that supported the building of our new health and science building. So I'll never forget Conneaut for the support that they gave us in that project. The second thing I'd like to say, and I hope you all realize this, but I'll just say, you have a wonderful city manager. I can't pay me to say that.
Not this time.
I interact with Jim in a number of venues around the county, and he really represents the city of Conneaut with professionalism. I see other city managers, leaders from the community looking toward him for the answers, and he usually has the answers and is just so much more knowledgeable. So you're very fortunate to have Jim Hockaday as your city manager. So the third reason I'm here is every year the Ashtabula Area College Committee, which Lori was a member of for a number of years, present a community service award. And we usually present it at commencement, but because of COVID, we haven't really had a commencement since it started. We had one last spring, but it was kind of trimmed down. But I remember it was 2019, I think, that I was eating dinner with my cousin in Piscotty's with Bernice Dickey and Jeannie Whitman. And I said to Lori that night, the college committee wants to award you the Community Service Award, and we'll be doing it at commencement in May. And that was, it would have been May of 2020. Well, we haven't been able to give the award to Lori again because of COVID. So I appreciate being able to give it to her tonight. And I don't have to tell you all the things that Lori does for the community. She's been on the college committee. Lori is a graduate of our hospitality management program. And you all know that she was operating a successful business and didn't really need to go back to school, but she saw the value in it, and she knows the value that she gained from going to Kent State Ashtabula. University Hospitals Board, many other boards around the county, and Lori's just always so pleasant. I've never seen Lori not smiling, and
Can't see me now.
I know behind that mask is a smile. So I'm so pleased to finally be able to come to the meeting tonight and to present her with flowers and a plaque that recognizes your service to our county.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dean Stocker, and congratulations to
Thank you.
Lori. Very well deserved.
Thank you.
Our next award presentation is for one of our Spartans. We have two of them in chambers tonight. And the first will be Claire Eaton. You come up with your family. If you read the certificate into the record, please.
Certificate of Achievement, Spartan of the Month. The Spartan of the Month for September is Claire Eaton. Claire is a student at Conneaut High School. Her nominating teacher, Mrs. Stephanie Chase, wrote, Claire always shows positive school spirit and gets involved. She participates in many extracurriculars and specifically youth philanthropy with Mrs. Chase. She is always willing to take on any tasks with YP, and she does a great job fulfilling obligations in a timely manner. She works hard in all her classes to do well. As far as her character, she is a genuinely nice person who takes things to heart. She can recognize her own faults and tries to improve on them. She cares about what other people think, and she cares about how she treats others. Claire is genuine and shows the same respect and kindness to her peers as she does to the adults in her life. Claire exhibits those qualities that make her a representative of what it means to be a true Spartan. Signed, Council President John Arcaro and Council Member Joe Emery.
On behalf of council, I congratulate you and as a token of our appreciation for your achievement. You're welcome. Okay, congratulations. You want to introduce yourself?
This is my mother. This is my father, JJ Eaton. Yeah, and my brother, Robbie. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Our next awards presentation is for Ella Burdick. Come up with the family. Do we have a representative from the schools here? Come forward too, sure. Ms. Khan, read the certificate of the record, please.
Certificate of Achievement, Spartan of the Month. The Spartan of the Month for October is Ella Burdick. Ella is a student at Conneaut High School. Her nominating teacher, Ms. Carrie McKinley, where Ella is a hardworking, dependable, and dedicated student. She has been class president for the past 4 years. Ella has also been involved in cheer throughout her time at CHS and is always willing to show school spirit. Ella is someone who goes above and beyond and always willing to help. Her friendliness and kindness are admirable. Ella exhibits those qualities that make her a representative of what it means to be a true Spartan. Signed, Council President John Arcaro and Council Member Thierry Moisia.
City Council, congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'd like to introduce your family and
This is my mom, Jamie Burdick.
who do we have here?
This is my principal, Mrs. Answerowitz.
Okay, very good. Congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.
Okay, next on the agenda is citizen comments. Do we have anybody signed in to comment?
My name is Mr. Blanca. I live on Sherman Street, Conneaut. 10-year resident of Conneaut. Retired carpenter. In the last 4 years of my career, I was a substitute school teacher in Conneaut. And I've never been to one of these meetings, so I'm just really glad to be here. I made some notes. I'm a note guy. I do not understand the need to have schedules for garbage pickup. There are numerous businesses that frequently stop on roads, i.e. mail, UPS, FedEx, Home Depot, Lowe's, furniture stores, etc. Are you going to regulate these deliveries such as you're wanting to regulate or are regulating? I got my notice in the mail, are regulating garbage. If you are, I think it might be nice to inform them. Free enterprise in Conneaut must at all costs be kept intact. Is Conneaut headed for a single contractor for trash hauling, eliminating free enterprise and competition? And by the way, that is a question. I would like an answer if that's the appropriate place to be. I'm sorry?
That's not correct. We're not going to a single haul. This does not stop your choice.
You're going to go on record saying that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll hold you to it.
Absolutely.
Good. This must not happen or we will soon look like California. And by the way, California, you know what they eliminated today? Gasoline engines. Can't mow your lawn anymore with a gasoline engine in California or a chainsaw. I hope we're not headed in that direction. That's the reason I am here. I'm very concerned about controlling citizens. That cannot be done. Laws, absolutely. I'm a law guy. Okay? I pay my taxes just like everyone else here does. But I do believe that people have to have freedom. We must allow the quality of goods and the services and related costs to determine what enterprises exist, not government mandates. Okay? I only ask that the city council has transparencies and not operate with an agenda only known to city council, which we all know our federal government is very good at that. I live on Sherman Street. I would ask that the city council repave my street in a similar way that they repaved William Street, just 2 streets from mine, 3, 4, 5 years ago. I can't remember exactly. And I would really appreciate if anyone's ever driven down my road, Sherman Street, your next stop might want to be at a mechanic's place to get a realignment. That's all I have to say, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any citizen comments? Okay, if not, communications?
I have none this evening.
Does council have any communications? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to reports of our administration, beginning with city manager, Mr. Hockaday.
Thank you, Council President Arcaro. Couple of things that I want to update you on. First and foremost, trick or treat this year, October 31st, which is a Sunday from 5 to 7 p.m. It is on the front page of the city website. We have conformed with the traditional October 31st, 5 to 7, same time, same place every year. So I'm certain everybody, all council members will get that question. We've already started getting that question a lot. So just make sure everybody knows it's same time, same place. I will note that I have not seen the typical application for the William Street display this year. I have not seen that yet. We will reach out and make sure that they're not, if they're intending to do that or not this year. And it's hard to tell with the private entities whether they're intending to do that or not. The Conneaut Creek Dredge Material Facility, just want to make sure we covered this at our last meeting, that we received the harbor sediment authorization, which is a permit issued for the handling of dredge material from the Ohio EPA. I believe that is the very first one under that authority in the state of Ohio. Kind of cool. We are waiting for those final phase 1 plans into a biddable form to be completed. I'm anticipating that here towards the end of the month. And then we will get those out to bid for phase 1. Route 20 Waterline Phase 2, we've had a couple elements that have gone in, the service lines as well as the Gore Road crossing. The majority of that Jack and Bore project will take place here after October. That way we don't have dueling road crews out there while they finish up West 20. Chestnut Stormwater Phase 3, the water, sewer, and storm lines are all completed and installed. The water line is pressurized. It's waiting the required 24-hour bacterial samples to come back before it's placed into service. Once that comes back, they'll go through. It'll take about 2 days to activate all the new service lines and cross over each of the individual service lines to each house. Grading and paving will be done after that. So we're assuming about another 2 days on the service lines, and then maybe 3 days grading, and then it'll be prepped and ready for paving for closeout at the end of October. So look forward to that project wrapping up. The Buffalo Street sewer boring project, we're still waiting on final engineering. At this juncture, I'm fairly willing to say that I anticipate that to go out to bid this fall for 2022 construction, given the timing on that. So that'll be a carryover project for us. The water treatment filtration improvements project, this is about the $1.5 million filter media replacement project, as well as the low lift pump and motor drive replacement project. That loan, the OWDA loan, 0% interest loan, closed. The OPWC grant agreements are all in place. The contract has been issued, signed, and the pre-construction meeting took place this past Wednesday for that project. So it's starting in earnest. You're not going to see a lot of hullabaloo about that because most of it is interior to the building at the water filtration plant. So good project. It's one that's been on the books for a long time, so I'm happy to see this one finally take off. The ODOT project, the Center Road bridge deck repair, the grouting was completed. That was the only 22 elements. The redecking of that will happen in 22. The West Main full reconstruction, the north lanes are substantially complete. They're working on the south lanes. We're still anticipating end of the month on that. Weather has been cooperative thus far, knock on wood. So they're making good progress over there. And hopefully they are substantially complete and out of the way, back to two directional traffic on West Main. The culvert replacement on Lake Road, that is substantially complete. I know we're going to go over the punch list for that one more time, make sure their grading, seating, and final drainage issues were all handled as requested. And the Route 20 West overlay, this is the mill and fill portion of that project from the plaza where the full dig stops all the way to the Kingsville line, and then east of Parish Road all the way to the Viaduct Bridge. That is going to be milled and resurfaced. That project is scheduled for 22. The ODOT Small Cities Award, you have a component of that application before you tonight. We have our Ohio Public Works Commission final application for assistance. I just gave you on your desk here the brief front and back, so you can see the sum total of that project, about $2.8 million total project, with about 1.8 coming in ODOT Small Cities, and another $335,000 in grant coming from OPWC with $150,000 in 0% interest loan. So that final grant application, if council would approve it tonight, will be submitted, and that will be actionable after July 1st of 2022. So hoping to move that project forward. That is the full reconstruction from State and 20 all the way down to Jackson and Broad Street there. Our USDOT project, the council did a fund creation appropriation for that at a recent meeting. Our 221 building rehab, council approved the RFP advertisement. We're still waiting on those final submissions as well as interviews. Those that will be completed the week of October 20th and then brought back before full council. And we'll discuss that once we get there. The paddling enhancement grant kayak launch ramp project that is awarded under contract and pending final pre-con. And then we are in a pre-planning stage for our Port Authority Marina expansion, as well as the Naylor Drive improvements to accommodate that. So we'll be talking about that more as our capital budget cycle kicks off here with City Council. Dorman Road, we did get the sealant down yesterday and today. We were hoping to get it all knocked out on Monday, and it just ran a little long, so they had to come back and finish the east lane today. It is fully completed at this juncture and ready for winter. It looks really nice if you had a chance to go out there and drive it and take a look at it. And we also redid the approach to Gateway because the elevation changed on Dorman Road. We did the soil stabilization. So there's a new asphalt apron in there, so the water drains appropriately. Looks really nice. Significant improvement for that whole area. Other than that, we have some small little pieces here and there. We had a tree damaged in an accident out here in front of City Hall. We did a couple tree replacements out front for a couple that had expired. Something that I hope we can continue to do a couple each year throughout the downtown and replace some of the trees that are either overgrown or no longer alive and need to be replaced. So it's looks a lot nicer out there. And I'm sure as you noticed when you came in, we finally were able to complete the repainting up here in the public hallways, which was long overdue, in my opinion. Looks very nice. Able to get that done with a contractor, and they're able to come in at night and over the weekends. So it wasn't a major operational hassle for us. So that is just about all of my updates. I have attached the last two monthly, one report for fire. They don't have their October numbers yet for Narcan, or September numbers for Narcan. But then I also included for you August and September for the police department as well, and some of their operational notes. So if you have any questions about any of those pieces, please let me know.
Any questions for the city manager? Okay, thank you. Move on to the finance director, Mr. Williams.
Council. It's in the annual report, but it's in the stats section. I just thought I'd go over it since it has changed due to the change in our assessed valuation. So for 2020, our debt limit is based upon 10.5% limitation, or 10.5% of our assessed valuation. So our assessed valuation is about 200 million, little over. We have total gross indebtedness of about 9 million, a little over 9 million. About 1.5 in general obligation bonds, about almost a little over 6 million in OWDA and OPWC loans, and about 1.2 million in just regular loans. We are allowed in this debt limitation calculation to deduct self-supporting securities. I gave council the definition of what that is under revised code 13301. So we are able to deduct OPWC and OWDA, which leaves a net debt applicable to the debt limit of about 2.8 million. So our overall debt limit is 21 million right now. That's 10.5%, as I said, of that assessed property valuation. The legal debt margin, or you can call it the legal debt leeway, it depends, the terminology you want to use, is about 18 million. So that's our debt capacity right now. We can borrow up to 18 million in total debt, but there's also a 5.5% unvoted debt limitation. That is 11,037,000. So the total is 21 million. Within the unvoted is 11 million. So our gross indebtedness stays the same. The net debt stays the same. Our unvoted legal debt margin or debt leeway is 8.2 million. So basically what that indicates is that without a vote of the people, council can issue debt or general obligation debt up to 8.2 million. With a vote of the people, you can increase that to 18.2 million at this stage. If you look at the percentages, and I just want to mention too, leases are not included in the debt limitation either, as well as self-supporting securities. But if you look at the percentages, they really haven't changed much. They've actually gone down a little bit because of the increase in the evaluation, but it's running between 86 and 88% since 2017. If you look at the unvoted, it's averaging about 74 to 78% per year. So there's really not a wide variation there. Our debt and our debt limitation or debt leeway has stayed pretty stable over the years. So I just wanted to go over that with you. And I thought I probably should have gone over that, a few times before, but as I said, it is in the annual report, but there's a lot of information in there. And this is something I thought I'd pull out after my conversation with the law director. So if you have any questions about it, I'd be happy to answer it.
Any questions for the finance director? Okay, thank you, Mr. Williams. Move on to the law director, Mr. Smith.
No report, but next week I'll ask John more questions.
Okay, moving on to committee reports. Does anybody have a committee report?
I do, Mr. Arcaro. There was an economic development meeting that took place here at City Hall, September 29th at 2 p.m. And Mr. Hockaday discussed different projects, gave us updates on East Side Industrial Park, different things going on at the industrial park, the dredge project, the Broad Street rehab, which he's touched on a little bit tonight, and then the Port District and happenings there. It was a good meeting, very informative. Is there anything you'd like to expand upon, Mr. Hockaday? about that meeting at all?
Not at this time. It was a long one, so I
It
thank you.
was.
Thank you for enduring that.
Yeah, no, it was good though. Very good meeting. That's the only, yes,
Okay.
well, that's the only committee meeting. I have a
Okay.
liaison report.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have a committee report? Okay, liaison reports.
I also have a liaison report. I know, it's gonna get tired of me talking tonight. We had a joint meeting between the Board of Education and Council on, again, September 29th. This was at 6 PM. We discussed, Mr. Hockaday gave updates on the Chestnut paving, that Lakeshore Primary is done now. Mrs. Riley gave us an update on the resource officer and how that's going, and she said that they're keeping him very busy. And it's going really, really well, spending a lot of time at Lakeshore. So they're really happy with how that's going. Ms. Riley also gave us an update on COVID for the different schools. They have had some positives, but their quarantines have stayed low because they do require masks. So they're happy with where their numbers are right now. And let's see here. I think that's about it. It was a good meeting. The tentative next, if you want to put it in your agenda, the next meeting is going to be January 12th at 6 PM in the media center at the high school. Okay. And that's it. Thank you, Mr. Arcaro.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to our ordinances this evening. We have one ordinance on the table, 8820, which will remain on the table. And we have 5 ordinances in first reading to consider. And we will begin with ordinance 9021.
An ordinance authorizes the city manager to advertise for individual bids, enter into separate agreements for the purchase of the following items listed in section 1 and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Hockaday.
Okay, we do this every year. This is our commodities bid. Largely, the lion's share of items in here are chemicals for the various treatment plants, whether that's water or wastewater. You see some other things like asphalt emulsions, cold mix asphalt, lab testing, mowing, concrete, basic, the pens, pencils, and paper clips of government. We are required, according to our purchasing policy, for things over certain values, we take them out for competitive bid. We've done this every year. So we're just asking council to authorize our annual advertisement as well as contract awards for each of these commodities. We notify all prior bidders as well as advertise in the newspaper annually for these services. So anybody is welcome to get a packet from City Hall if you would be new to the process, and we're happy to allow you to bid on any of these.
Any questions or comments regarding this ordinance? Is there a motion to proceed?
Make a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 90-21.
Motion to suspend a 3 reading rule on ordinance 9021. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Lightford?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
Hey, Mr. Emery, the 3 reading rule has been suspended.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to declare ordinance 90-21 an emergency.
A motion to declare ordinance 9021 an emergency. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Lightford?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
Hey, Mr. Emery, the emergency has been declared.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to act on ordinance 90-21.
It's a motion to act on ordinance 9021. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Lightford?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 9021 has passed. Move on to ordinance 9121.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager of the city of Conneaut to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement and/or local transportation improvement programs and to execute contracts as required and declaring an emergency.
Hey, Mr. Hockaday, would you like to say anything else?
Yeah, nothing new, but you do have the kind of the summary page here that shows the total of the ODOT Small Cities Capital Improvement Program and the OPWC grant matrix, as well as local shares attached to it. So this would be our final application. It is due at the end of this month on October 29th, back to the county engineer.
Any questions or comments regarding this ordinance? Is a motion to proceed?
I'll make a motion to waive the 3 reading rule on ordinance 91-21.
Motion to suspend a 3 reading rule on ordinance 91-21. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford.
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo,
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes. And Mrs. Ledford, the 3 reading rule has been suspended.
This time I'd like to declare ordinance 91-21 an emergency.
So motion to declare ordinance 91-21 an emergency. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford.
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo,
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes. Mrs. Ledford, the emergency has been declared.
This time I'd like to act on ordinance 91-21.
So motion to act on ordinance 91-21. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski.
Yes.
Mrs.
Yes.
Ledford. Mr. Moiseo.
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes. Ordinance 91-21 is passed. Move on to ordinance 92-21.
Bless
An ordinance to amend the 2021 budget through appropriations and fund and interfund transfers and attached here to and marked Exhibit A.
Mr. Williams.
Yes, the major one on this one was discussed at the work session. The water distribution building on Clark Street needs some roof repairs and I believe some building, some tuck and point and
The block walls and
block wall
parapets.
repair. So we're looking at probably about $60,000 in repairs. It was not budgeted last year. We didn't anticipate this happening, so this is something that we'll need to do. And then I just needed a $500 increase in refunds. We had about $1,000 in there. We're down to 900 and we're getting low, so I thought this would get us through the rest of the year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments regarding this ordinance? Is there a motion to proceed?
Mr. Arcaro, I'd like to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 92-21.
The motion to suspend a 3 reading rule on ordinance 92-21. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford.
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo.
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes. Mr. Moiseo, the 3 reading rule has been suspended.
Mr. Arcaro, I'd like to make a motion to act on ordinance 92-21.
The motion to act on ordinance 92-21. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery.
Yes.
Mr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford.
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo.
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes. Okay, ordinance 92-21 is passed. Move on to ordinance 93-21.
Yeah, 1 minute. There we go.
Take your time.
An ordinance authorizing the finance director to appropriate and return $11,838.12 in unused provider relief funding to the Health Resources and Services Administration.
Okay, Mr. Williams, would you like to tell us about that?
Probably need to amend this ordinance because the account line is not included in there. And it should be. So it's the same refund line that we had in the budget amendment. So it's the 101-901-58-703. So if we could amend
Could you
that.
repeat
to
that? 101.
101-901 58703.
101-901.
Yeah,
Point.
it's right on the budget amendment it's the very top one, the refund lines, the same one.
Okay.
Mr. Williams' concern there is that it needs to be discrete in the amendment as to what line it's being appropriated to. It's got to protect the record.
If you could just repeat for the public once again why this happened.
Yeah, actually, Mr. Hockaday gave a very good explanation, but I'll give a brief one here. We received some monies from or funding from the Health Resources and Services Administration. It was called Provider Relief. It was a direct ACH into our Star Ohio account. And anybody that received Medicare subsidies or Medicare reimbursement or Medicare funding in any way received a share of this money. As I looked at the report, it was a very detailed report, and they want us to basically provide information that we don't have. We don't categorize the information that way. I think it's more designed for hospitals and nursing homes. The way they wanted us to account for these funds, they wanted health outcomes of patients. They wanted people who were specifically dedicated to providing this healthcare. And basically, we're running an ambulance service. We're not really a provider in this respect. So my suggestion or recommendation would be to return the money to the Health Services Administration. We still obviously have it. We haven't used it. So we just need to appropriate it and send it back. And I've notified them that we are not applying for or interested in receiving any of this money this year as well. So
Nor did we apply for it. They remitted it to everybody that utilizes Medicare, Medicaid billing services. And it was an across the board kind of refund, but it demands us to fill out these extensive kind of reports on utilization of those funds. And we're really not equipped to provide that information. And these are federal dollars. We need to be very careful when we take federal dollars that we can account for and report according to the standards, or we could lose access to all federal funds. And Mr. Williams, I think, is appropriate. It's a small amount in the overall grand scheme of things, that it's safer for us to return the monies as we're not an appropriate user of those funds.
Any questions or comments regarding this ordinance? Okay, so just as a reminder, we'll have to start with amending. So is there a motion to proceed?
So make a motion to amend ordinance 93-21
To include,
the account line 101-901-58703.
okay, there's a motion to amend ordinance 93-21 to include line item 101.901.58703. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Mr. Emery.
Yes.
Mr. Goff.
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Lightford.
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo.
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes.
Hey, Mr. Emery, the ordinance has been amended.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 93-21.
There's a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 93-21 as amended.
Second.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Mr. Emery.
Yes.
Mr. Goff.
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Lightford.
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo.
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes.
Hey, Mr. Emery, the 3 reading rule has been suspended.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to act on ordinance 93-21 as amended.
It's a motion to act on ordinance 93-21 as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Mr. Emery.
Yes.
Mr. Goff.
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Lightford.
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo.
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 93-21 is passed. Move on to ordinance 94-21.
An ordinance to amend section 1323.01 definitions and section 1323.07 appeal to planning commission of the city of Pontiac codified ordinances and not declaring an emergency.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance we discussed at the work session, and its primary change is including the definition for unfit for human occupancy. And the change here is that if it's an occupied building, it's an occupied dwelling and there's no active water service, it is per se a public nuisance and a health hazard.
And you indicated at the work session, you would like this to go in effect immediately. Do you want the emergency or no?
That's up to you. You can do it. I mean, I don't know that it's necessary, but you can certainly suspend the 3 reading rule and we can move on with it, or you can read it 3 times, however you'd like to do it. It's your choice.
Okay, well, I'll leave that up to whoever sponsors it. Okay, is there a motion to proceed?
I'll make a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 94-21.
There's a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 94-21. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Mr. Emery.
Yes.
Mr. Goff.
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford.
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo.
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford, the 3 reading rule has been suspended.
Now, do we need to amend this if we're going to declare it an emergency?
Yes, what we would do if you want to declare it as an emergency is on that last item here, section 5. This ordinance is necessary. I can fill in the words later to, for the health, welfare.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
At this time, I'd like to act on ordinance 94-21.
So motion to act on ordinance 94-21. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Mr. Emery.
Yes.
Mr. Goff.
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford.
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo.
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes.
The ordinance 94-21 is passed. Concludes our ordinances for this evening. Move on to unfinished and old business. Hearing none, move on to miscellaneous business.
I have one for Mr. Hockaday. Liberty Street, it looks like there was a road cut. We need to fix it. It's east of 7.
East of 7.
Anybody else for miscellaneous business? I'd like to welcome Mr. Prokowski back and appreciate you stepping up to the plate to start your term early.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be back and serving the people of Conneaut.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion, Mr. Ricker.
Second.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Mr. Emery.
Yes.
Mr. Goff.
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford.
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo.
Yes.
Mr. Prokowski.
Yes.
The city council for October 12th, 2021 is adjourned. Thank you.